everyone who comes into my office or any other family law attorney's office, there's fear of the unknown. Whether it be you're getting a divorce. When you said I do, you never anticipated getting a divorce. You never anticipated going to family law court. If you're unmarried, when that child was born, you never envisioned having to fight for every minute you're going to get to parent your child. And so there's a level of fear and there's a level of uncertainty. Every state has their little idiosyncrasies about the family court process. And a lay person it's impossible to step into that world and really truly understand what's going on until it's too late.
Oh, yeah.
My biggest thing with all clients is I'm going to educate you on the fundamentals of what the system is and what the system is not. And if both attorneys can do that to their clients, it's going to take them out of that fight or flight mode. Because if you're uncertain, if you're scared, if you don't know what's going on, you're either going to stand up and fight or you're going to run away from it. And when you run away from it, a lot of times that's where you get the DV stuff where things start kind of facts get changed in their head. They've ran away from the situation. They tell a story over and over again and things morph. So when you're looking for a family law attorney, not only do you want to look for one that is truly or has a track record of settling things and it not being contentious and not dragging things out, you want someone you feel comfortable with and that is going to educate you on your state systems and your state's policies, procedures, and what will likely happen. Because the more knowledge you have, the more at ease you're going to be. The more knowledge your ex has, the more at ease they're going to be. And when both parties feel more comfortable, that's where it's going to be right for coming to an agreement.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think, though, the problem with what you're saying is that it's predicated on this idea that you're going to be dealing with two fundamentally ethical attorneys. And that just has not been my experience so far in family law. And I mean, I know there are ethical family law attorneys because I've met many of them, become friends with some of them. But that entire analysis that you just went through just goes out the window when one of those attorneys is one of these high conflict, conflict creating, unethical bad apple attorneys, because they're going to, instead of educate their client about what they can reasonably expect and help their client come to make a decision in their best interest, they're instead going to A, manipulate what their client knows and understands, B, manipulate the situation, misuse the rules, misuse the law in order to generate conflict, because that generates attorney's fees. And
I think that comes back to, and this really, I guess, isn't for the viewer specifically. That comes back to what those ethical attorneys in the profession are willing to say and do to those bad apples. I don't think I can mention on air what I said in our email today to start out with, but calling out those individuals and putting them out there peer to peer can in a lot of instances have an impact. And I think that transitions really well into bar complaints. You mentioned with unethicalkarma.com, one of the tools is going to be educating individuals how to file proper bar complaints. So we'll start out, what does the bar do? And then how do bar complaints impact attorneys?
We'll do that. Let's do that in the context of an actual example. So you're in California.
Yep.
And I'm sure you're probably pretty aware of what's going on with Attorney Giraldi in Los Angeles.
Yes.
Okay, so he was the Aaron Brockovich attorney. Had an illustrious career. He's 80 some odd years old now. He's married to a woman that's 30 years or so younger than him, and a star on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. He's made millions of dollars through the course of his legal career. And a couple of weeks ago, the Los Angeles Times reported that the State Bar of California effectively admitted to corruption because they told the Los Angeles Times that they had mishandled the investigation into Attorney Giraldi's career, because he had many bar complaints filed against him, many lawsuits filed against him, many negative reviews about him. But because he was able to capitalize on his star power and his connections that he built inside of the California Office of Disciplinary Counsel, he was able to avoid ever having discipline meted out to him for the exact same things that other attorneys in California got discipline for. So, that question about, what is it that bar associations do, and how do you tackle that problem? I think that, one, you just have to acknowledge that some bar associations become corrupt. I think that's just wherever money can be made, wherever influence can be traded, corruption can follow. And but once you step aside that, once you get beyond that, then what happens with a bar complaint is, and now I never worked for the Bar Association, right? My only experience with bar complaints is both having my ex-wife's attorney has filed 2 bar complaints against me. One investigation is still open, and it's based upon these forged court orders that she had, and her ability to try and cover up that forgery and fraud. And then seeing what's happened with the bar complaint that I filed against her, and what I've learned from that process. But initially, what happens is a bar complaint comes into the Bar Association, and it gets assigned an initial screener, and they look to see, does this just hold together on the inside of the 4 points of the document. And a lot of grievances just don't go anywhere because they're nonsensical. Once beyond that, then what's supposed to happen is that if there are actual allegations against an attorney, then the Bar Association contacts the attorney and says, someone has filed a bar complaint against you. You need to respond, and if you've got X amount of time to respond. And then they go back to the grievant, the person who filed the complaint, with the attorney's response, and says, this is what they've said. That process goes twice or so. Evidence goes back and forth if it happens, and then the Bar Association will then make a determination as to whether or not it's going to move forward to a potential review by a disciplinary committee. And then beyond that, then the next step would be sort of like basically a mini trial on the issue, and then discipline is meted out or it isn't, and then it can be reviewed by the Supreme Court in the state that you're in, and in sort of the weirdest twist of life imitating art, the best visual that I've seen of that process actually comes from that television show You Better Call Saul, when the attorney Saul gets disciplined. So I think and in opposing counsel's case, I was able to turn up a bar complaint that had been, and usually this process is completely confidential, and it doesn't result in, there's nothing public about it, and that's part of the problem. Now there's a reason for it, and there's a good side and a bad side to the confidentiality aspect of it. But this process is completely confidential, and none of it becomes revealed until after discipline has been meted out or not. So I was able to turn up a bar complaint that had been filed against opposing counsel in 2011 that I actually got from the grievant, and I was able to even see the Bar Association's dismissal letter, and I'd be able to look at it and analyze it and see, okay, this is why it didn't really get much traction. And a lot of it didn't get much traction because, the grievance, I don't think understand these rules, probably because they haven't read them. So they're just sort of going off the seat of their pants about that feels wrong. And the idea that feeling wrong is a good indicator that you should be reading these rules, but they haven't read these rules and they don't realize how do you take this rule and how do you take this piece of evidence and how do you put the two of them together and hand them to the Bar Association in a neat package so that they go, oh, here's the rule, here's the evidence they broke the rule.